Hi everybody, much peace to you all and welcome. Today's message is about understanding your higher self and really understanding the consciousness of the higher self. Now to start with, I want to say that everybody has a higher self and your higher self is your most true authentic self-expression. And the more that you are connected to this guidance is the more that you are connected to your freedom, okay? So your higher self may be one of the most important spirit guides. It is actually the most important spirit guide that you have, because in essence it is your essence, it is your energy, it is your soul, it is who you really are deep down into your own nature. And really the higher self is the consciousness of the now. Okay, it is the consciousness of the present moment. The more connected you are to the present moment is the more connected that you are with your higher self, okay? So the higher self happens into the state of beingness. It is a guidance that is happening based on the feeling, on the state of beingness. And the more connected you are to your intuition, the more connected you are to your gut feeling, is the more connected you are to your higher self, okay? So in essence, your higher self is happening based on the state of consciousness that is represented by a pure positive feeling. Now, don't get me wrong, if you really want to connect to your higher self, you also need to understand your lower nature, okay? Your ego, your shadows, your imperfections, okay? So maybe it's not always about being in a perfect state of consciousness, but more likely learning to integrate everything about yourself, learning to integrate every single tool that you have, learning to integrate even your shadows, your imperfections, and giving yourself the freedom necessary to be who you really want to be, okay? So your higher self doesn't break your free will, and your higher self wouldn't break your free will, okay? So the higher self is guiding you based on freedom. Okay, it is guiding you based on the consciousness that is happening based on free will. It wouldn't break free will. Now, if you are feeling like you are in a fight or flight situation, or when you feel like you are obligated to do something, that may be your ego, that may be your lower nature, because the ego is constantly being attached to certain things. The ego is constantly being attached to the separation, maybe to the struggle, to the resentment. And you really, if you really want to connect to your higher self, you also need to understand your ego. You also need to integrate your ego. You also need to really get to know yourself also based on your imperfections, okay? Because we're not perfect as humans. Okay, we're not perfect as humans, and we have to really learn to evolve our soul and learn from our experiences, you know? So the more that you learn from your past experiences, and the more that you begin to love yourself, and the more that you begin to integrate even your shadows and your imperfections, is the more that you will actually open the space for flow of energy to go through you, okay? So the more open your energy is, the more the energy flows through you, is the more that you are being connected to your higher self, is the more that you are being connected to your own freedom, to your own spiritual nature. And you know, when you feel a blockage, when you feel like you are in pain, you are maybe out of vibrational alignment with your higher self, you are out of vibrational alignment with your true essence. Because I believe that yes, there is a flow of consciousness, and maybe that flow is our true essence, okay? And when we are resisting, maybe we are connected to the ego. But again, we also need to understand our resistance. We also need to give ourselves the time, freedom, and space necessary to actually heal ourselves, okay? So we need to integrate everything about ourselves. That is how to connect to our higher selves. We need to understand our higher nature, but we also need to understand our lower nature, okay? We also need to understand our imperfections, our shadows, the unaccepted parts about yourself. So in connecting to your higher self, you have to integrate everything about yourself. You have to get to know your soul at a deep level. You have to really step into the consciousness of the spirit. You have to see the master in everything, okay? So for example, even a rough experience, even a negative experience has something to teach you, okay? And if you really want to connect to your higher self, you also need to integrate your past. You also need to integrate your pain and suffering. You need to make the best out of the worst, okay? So your higher self is the state of beingness that is the observer. Okay, so the more that you are being connected into the now, the more that you are being connected into the present moment, the more that you silence the mind and connect to your heart and intuition, is the more that you are connecting to the consciousness of the higher self, which is the consciousness of the present moment, which is your true, most authentic self-expression, which is freedom in essence. Okay, so your higher self is constantly offering you feelings, okay? It is speaking to you through the emotional body. It is speaking to you through the emotional body. And the more that you learn to master your own feelings, and the more that you learn to listen to your own feelings, is the more that you are being connected to your higher self. Okay, so master the emotional body. That is super important. Get to know yourself based on your feelings, because your feelings are always showing you something about yourself. Okay, your feelings are always showing you something about where you need to work on, about your belief systems, about your fears, about your strengths or weaknesses. Okay, so the feeling is super important, and the more connected we are to our feelings, and I'm not speaking only about positive feeling, I'm also speaking about our imperfections. Okay, so the more connected we are to the feelings and the better we get at feeling, is the more that we are being connected to our higher self. Okay, so when you learn to also accept and master a negative feeling, you also set yourself free. You also realize that you have a choice. You also realize that now you can actually make choices based on freedom. Okay, so you don't have to do things out of obligation. Okay, because you know, in this matrix, in this society, we may feel like we are being obligated to do certain things. We feel like we must do certain things, but in essence, it's about the state of vibrational alignment. Okay, so I believe that the higher self also happens based on the state of vibrational alignment. It happens based on the consciousness of acceptance. Okay, so if you really want to connect to your higher self, accept yourself, and your higher self will actually come through you. Okay, so the more connected you are to the channeling, the more connected you are to the flow state, the more connected you are to your intuition, is the more that your higher self will actually come through you and speak to you. Okay, so the more that you open your mind and the more that you silence your inner world, the more that you become wider and the more that you become in alignment with your true soul essence, is the more that you are being connected to your higher self. Okay, so yes, the consciousness of the higher self is a really powerful state of consciousness. And everybody has a higher self. Everybody is guided based on the gut feeling. You have intuition, and you know that you have intuition, and your intuition always speaks to you. And you know, when you have a feeling about something, that may be your higher self speaking to you. Okay, so in essence, your higher self is always guiding you, but again, it doesn't break your free will. Okay, so it is always offering your guidance based on the freedom that you have. That is also how spirit guides and angels work. Okay, they work based on offering ourselves the free will and offering solutions that are, you know, at ease and at peace. Okay, I believe that yes, also the higher self works based on ease, peace, and harmony. Okay, so I know that maybe you had moments in life where you felt really free, very in alignment, very connected to the present moment. Well, that was your higher self speaking to you. That was your higher self speaking to you. And maybe you had moments of synchronicity. Maybe you had moments of manifestations. Maybe you had moments where you really felt a good positive vibe. Well, these things are your higher self speaking to you. Okay? So yes, if you are on the spiritual journey and if you are resonating with this concept of the higher self, it means that you are closer and closer to connecting to your higher self, which again is maybe your most powerful spirit guide. It is who you really are in deep down into your soul. Okay, so my suggestion is, if you really want to connect to your higher self, learn to love yourself. Okay, learn to love yourself, because that is how the higher self will come through. Give yourself the attention, the freedom, the time and the space necessary. Don't do things out of obligation, okay? Because your higher self doesn't guide you based on that thing, okay? Your higher self is actually guiding you based on the freedom that you have, okay? So realize that you have a choice, and the more you find little ways to step into vibrational alignment, is the more that you actually open future possibilities, is the more that you open states of consciousness that are representing freedom, that are representing alignment, abundance, and beautiful states of consciousness, okay? So if you really want to connect to your higher self, find little ways to be happy. You know, find little ways to be happy, find little ways to let go, find little ways to find a deeper connection with yourself. Okay, that is how to connect to your higher self. Your higher self is actually you, but it is a more advanced version of yourself in a way, but in essence it is you. It is who you really are deep down in your DNA structure, in your consciousness, in your most authentic true self-expression. Okay, so yes, understand yourself and you will understand your higher self. Get to know yourself based on your feelings, on your thought patterns, on your actions, and your higher self will slowly come through, okay? So if you want to connect to your higher self, you also don't need to rush the process. You don't need to rush the process. You need to really trust your own divine timing. You really need to be connected and loving yourself. Okay, so you don't need to rush the process. You need to really follow your own intuition, follow your own timing, and also respect your free will. Because whenever it feels like we don't have free will, whenever it feels like we are in a fight or flight situation, that may be the wounded ego. That may be something wounded within yourself that may be scared or may not be in alignment with what needs to happen. But in essence, Christ consciousness may be free will, okay? So when you enter a higher state of consciousness, you are also accessing your free will, your freedom, your true authentic state of consciousness, okay? So yes, this was today's message about getting to understand your higher self. But remember, you also need to understand your lower self in the process. You also need to love your shadows. You also need to love your pain and suffering, because these things are part of the process, okay? So it's not always about being perfect. Let go of perfection and you will find another type of perfection, So you are perfect in your imperfections, okay? So yeah guys, this is today's message about understanding your higher self. I've seen in my own journey that I had moments where I was deeply connected to my higher self, and I have moments where I'm feeling the channeling, I'm feeling the message, and I'm still working on it, okay? Maybe I don't have a perfect relationship with my higher self, but I'm going there, okay? So in essence, it's all about the inner world. It's all about taking things slowly. It's all about letting go of perfection and just doing what we can with the consciousness that we have, respecting ourselves enough and loving ourselves enough so we can step into a higher state of consciousness. Okay guys, so thanks so much for watching, and if you're new to the YouTube channel, feel free to subscribe, leave a comment, that is appreciated. And like always, see you on what is coming up next. This was today's message about understanding your higher self. Go ahead and meditate, silence the mind. That is how your higher self will come through. Much peace, and see you on what is coming up next. Bye bye.